if you're putting out a 45-minute video, no one's going to watch it. No one's going to watch it. So, keep things in a format that people want to consume. And if you're not sure what that is, think about what you yourself like to consume. So if you are like me and you are on Instagram whenever you have, like time before bed where your head's racing, and we're all ADHD now. So, I like to scroll before I go to sleep. I think I take note and I think about, okay, what are these pieces of content that I'm consuming where I'm staying for the whole thing? And what is it that I like about that? And how can I translate that to what my audience is interested in?
Welcome to Social Pulse Podcast B2B Edition, your dedicated source for mastering B2B social media marketing challenges authentically. I'm your host, Mike Galton, and in each episode, we dive deep into the complex world of B2B marketing, from effective content creation to strategic social selling, sharing insights and strategies you can use right away. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast B2B Edition, where each and every week we're talking to marketing professionals like you, going through many of the same struggles you're going through and sharing their stories. Subscribe to find in each episode the inspiration, the motivation, and the perspiration that go into growing and scaling organizations like yours. Now, are you struggling to explain AI technology in a way that actually connects with your audience? For B2B marketers, communicating about artificial intelligence presents a unique challenge. It's not just about explaining what the technology does, it's about making it relatable, trustworthy, and human. Many marketers find themselves caught between maintaining technical accuracy and creating engaging content that resonates with their audience. The stakes are high. If your message is too technical, you'll lose engagement. Too simplified, and you might lose credibility. But that's exactly what we're diving into today with our expert guest, Christina Keene. As the director of brand and content at Flip, Christina has mastered the art of making AI approachable and engaging through social media at Flip, a company backed by industry giants like Amazon and Alexa. She's been instrumental in crafting narratives that transform complex voice AI technology into compelling stories that resonate with B2B audiences. Her experience in brand development and creative direction, combined with her current role leading content strategy for an AI-powered customer service platform, makes her the perfect guide for this journey into humanizing AI through social media. Hey, Christina, welcome to the show.
Hi, Mike. I got to tell you, you've got a great radio voice.
Thank you. I definitely have the voice for radio. I appreciate that so much. But this is going to be a fun conversation because, as we were talking about before we started recording, I am an AI enthusiast. I've got my own podcast about artificial intelligence and love exploring this topic. But the angle here is a little bit different. It's not so much how we can use AI, but how when you're a brand like Flip and you've got AI capabilities, whether you're AI first or AI powered, sharing that in ways that make us seem less robotic is sometimes a challenge. But I'd love if you could start by sharing your journey into content strategy and how you came to specialize in marketing AI technology.
Yeah, honestly, I sort of fell into the AI side of it. I started my career in nonprofit arts fundraising. And from there, I realized, in order to be an adult who is not living out of her car, I've got to get into the private sector. Nonprofits were great, but I couldn't make a great living, and it was during the Great Recession. Back in 2009, 2010. So budgets were being slashed. It was difficult to get a job. But being in the nonprofits art space and being a grant writer specifically, I was able to very easily translate that skill set into being a really great copywriter. So in marketing specifically, I started as a copywriter. And I hate to say it, but I worked with a couple of not so great graphic designers. So I had to teach myself how to do that better so that the language could really shine. And from there, you and I were talking about it in the prep for this call. I became a bit of a creative octopus. So I do the whole the whole broad range of marketing, everything from copy to design to web to social. It's all me. And how I got to Flip, I was at another company and it just wasn't speaking to my soul. So when I got the opportunity to come here, um, I said, and I'm gonna say a swear here. I said, "Fuck yes, get me the fuck out of here." And I had a half-hour call with our CEO, and I swore like a sailor the whole time. And about a week later, I had a job offer. So it was like, okay, this I think this is the place to be. Um, yeah, so that's how I got my start. That's how I landed here. Um, yeah, let's get into the weeds.
I love how you framed how you started because you started by talking about, working in the nonprofit center, but specifically talking about sector, but specifically talking about grant writing, which when done well means you're telling stories.
Yeah.
You're telling stories that other folks can relate to, and they're going to want to give you money as a result of that. So that makes total sense how you transitioned into copywriting, and then you felt like the graphics. It's not that they weren't necessarily great, but they probably weren't telling great stories. By the same token, you had to take that on. So walk us through your process then for transforming the kinds of technical AI features that so many brands want to talk about. And I see it today every day with the large language models as an easy example. They want to talk about how many tokens they can process and how many lines of code they can help you with. They're not telling stories. How are you telling compelling social media stories today?
Yeah, I love this question because Flip is in the customer experience space. We answer support. We are a voice. We answer support calls for retail and e-commerce brands and transportation. But customer experience is human. It's the most human piece of the customer journey when, you're buying something. If I buy a sweater, uh, and that sweater doesn't get delivered when I think it's going to, if I call and it's a bot saying, press 1 for X, press 2 for whatever, it's not a great experience. And sitting on hold is certainly not a great experience either. So what we do is we plug into a brand's systems and we have all of the data on a customer. So when I call in and I'm wondering about where my sweater is, Flip is able to say, your sweater was last seen in Soda Springs, Idaho. Would you like me to text you a link to tracking? And it's a much better experience, and it's a much more human experience because it speaks like a human, it's responsive like a human, it's empathetic, not quite as much as a human is, but, although I guess it depends on the human, but it's helpful. And, for me, I I don't want to explain what Flip is in complex terms because quite frankly, our audience doesn't give a shit. They give a shit that the AI is working. They don't care to get into the weeds of how it is working. If we launch something that's super technical, we'll put out a white paper, but by and large, those white papers are the least the least well performing content that we have on our website. It just doesn't get engagement because people don't care. They wanna know that the AI can do the job. They don't care, uh, beyond that. They don't care about the tokens. They don't care about, you know, this is what we're doing with our LLM. Like, it's so ingrained now, the conversation about AI, that the last thing I want when we are doing something that is so human in answering customer support calls, I don't wanna complicate it. I don't wanna muddy the message with technical jargon. Um, and, our CEO, Brian, says, uh, "Fuck buzzwords." And I feel like a lot of the marketing in the AI space is a lot of buzzwords. It's a lot of jargony bullshit, and your audience just doesn't care. They want to know it can do the job.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I've started to see studies about how because of the way that AI can be trained, the way that AI uses natural language so well, it can actually seem even more empathetic than a human. Because to your point, not everybody can be really empathetic. We're going to assume for the moment that if you're hired to be a customer support center individual, you have some empathetic skills. But as humans, it can be inconsistent. I can show different levels of empathy depending on my mood and my professional ability to turn it on, regardless of how I feel. Whereas an AI is going to be flawless and consistent every single time. And they know to ask questions like, well, how did that feel? And so on depending on the application. So this is really interesting to me, the way that you guys are empowering other businesses to have that level of not just empathy, because that's important, but to your point, most people when they have an issue, they just want to get it solved as fast as possible. And with an AI, there's no wait time. It's instant. You connect, and you're already into it, and getting that problem solved. Hopefully, so I love
Mhm.
that kind of look as to what Flip is and does and how you're helping businesses. But you talked about, white papers and technical support and that sort of thing that you need to put out there. How do you balance having that level of, necessary educational content versus engaging storytelling? I mean, just to give you an example from my background, I used to sell swimming pools long time ago. I used to sell swimming pools and it was the same kind of challenge. I know people are like, "What? Swimming pools?" Yeah, because when you went to buy a swimming pool, yes, you might want to know, okay, what filter does it come with? What's the
Mhm.
horsepower of the pump? How tall are the walls? How big around is it? That kind of stuff. That's the technical information I needed to be able to provide. But that wasn't the story I sold. What I sold was the background oasis that awaited you once you invested in a pool and that ability to create this space outside your home where you and your kids could enjoy all summer long without having to get in a car and go anyplace and pay membership fees. No, none of that. You've got your own outdoor oasis. So how do you do that with Flip?
Yeah, so we decided, gosh, almost 2 years ago now, to do weekly product releases, and in doing that, our product is growing so fast. We are, I get Slack alerts several times a day, if not at least one an hour, that our engineering team has done something else that we could talk about in a product release. And instead of just banking all of that and doing one release like a month or once every 6 months when we've got really big things to talk about, with doing these weekly product releases, what we're doing is we're cutting things down into bite-sized pieces. So, if we do an update to, let's say, an integration with one of the help desks that one of our retail customers is using, we know that, so many other brands are using that help desk too. So let's talk about it in simple terms. You don't need to know the ins and outs of the API. What you need to know as a customer experience professional is, okay, well, now Flip can do this, that, and the other thing within my help desk. And I was told about it in a really digestible format. And, I heard it from that girl, Christina, who, flies off the handle and has swear words all over her LinkedIn. So that's how we did it. We took things from big to little bite-sized pieces and regular content. Um, so people are it's that building in public idea. People are seeing the product develop as it's developing, and they're seeing it in super digestible content.
I love that. And it's a little counterintuitive, I think,
Mhm.
because your target market is support and nothing against support people. We love support people, but this isn't the flashiest industry in the world, right? So it's really fascinating to me that you're seeing that level of interest and engagement, in that particular genre. So speaking of customer support though, what role does customer feedback have for you guys? How does that play into your social media strategy for this kind of an AI product?
Yeah, so when I started this company, I thought it was really important to really focus on community. But yeah, customer success and customer experience aren't the sexiest things about like a retail brand. However, they are the things that will keep shoppers engaged. So if your customer experience is really solid, retention is just sort of baked in. In marketing, this tool that in some respects takes away some of the human element from a customer success or customer service or customer experience department, we're also we're enabling them to, since they're not answering basic questions like, where's my order? When's my return going to process? Can I ask about my warranty status? Um, we're giving time back to agents and customer service professionals to answer more complex questions and issues. And so I thought, we're giving them time back to focus on things where their attention is really needed. And we're helping in this customer experience journey to help speed things along, to help enhance the customer experience journey. So my thought was, let's make them superstars. So let's, when they are celebrating something like a new store opening, what do? We immediately repost. When they get a promotion, what do? We comment, we repost, we like, we do whatever we can. When they have great feedback from a caller, what do? We celebrate them. And, we celebrate them as a whole, as a company. We have this Slack channel called the LinkedIn Flip Hive, where if one of our clients is celebrating something, we drop the link to the post in there, and we all jump in and we celebrate them because without them, we don't exist. We're phones, so we're super hyper niche, and phones are the most human channel for a brand. Email isn't a very human channel. Neither is chat. Social is a bit more human, um, but phones are. When you have an issue with a brand, your first instinct to resolve it is to call because it's the fastest path to resolution. So when we are in a position to impact the phone channel as we are, you know, uh, it's the people that are behind it, the people that are at our brands that are where we should be celebrating, not, like, oh, Flip did this really great thing. That's true, but it did it because our brands and the CX people that work at them are so stellar. So really focusing in on that community piece, that engagement with what they are putting out into the world as a first priority it's been huge for us.
I love that you're leveraging social media to be a reminder of the humanity of your
Mhm.
brand, right? You've got a client that has posted something amazing about their own business. You bring the entire Flip squad to that post and say, "Hey, let's all jump in there. Let's all remind them that we're there to support them because we're all humans." Folks, we're talking with Christina Keen about some of the challenges AI has presented, not just using it, but talking about it when our solutions have AI capabilities. Speaking of which, now would be a great time to share how Agorapulse is using AI to help customers like you.
Hey there, Daryl Prale, Chief Marketing Officer here at Agorapulse, the industry's best social media management platform. I gotta tell you, I love AI. Why? I don't view it as a threat. Rather, it makes me better. It's a colleague. It's a collaborator. Let's say I do a social media post, but you know what? I'm a little long-winded. I want it shorter. Maybe I want it longer. Maybe I want it punchier, more assertive, more inspirational, more funny. That's what our writing assistant does. Check it out, agorapulse.com.
So, Christina, could you share a specific example? Show us an actual campaign that you guys have run on social media that helped humanize your AI technology.
Yeah, we this 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 comes back to the community piece. We've got and I hope you don't hear my dog barking. He has decided that it's his time to be the superstar. Um his name is Goose, by the way. So I got what I deserved when I named him that. He is a goose. Um, but we got the opportunity last summer, summer of 24, to have a billboard in Times Square. One of our vendors, um, Brex, said, "Hey, we've got billboard space. Do you want a 7-second spot on it?" And we said, uh, "Flip, yes, we do." And we settled on this idea of let's call out our flippin' legends. So what we did was we had a very simple video where it was you're a flippin' legend, and then we just cycled through a bunch of names for some of our clients that have been with us for the longest or had a really big impact on our product, and focusing it on the humans that make our AI work. It was just one of those, like, marketer moments where I'm like, "Oh, wow, I'm doing a good thing here." Like, I'm not selling people something they don't need. We're selling them something that can very much help and improve their day-to-day operations, and we're celebrating them and putting their name up on a billboard in Times Square, and their name is as big as a car, and, we spent nothing on it. We didn't spend anything for the billboard. We spent, oh gosh, I think 2 grand to have a photographer come and capture everybody's name that came through in a still image and a video of it that was high res. And he got some really great shots of the team in New York. Um, and we threw it all up on social, and it blew up. Biggest engagement I've ever had, biggest engagement my CEO has had. It it was just probably the best campaign of my career thus far. Um, and it really was that because we were celebrating the people. We weren't celebrating, what we're doing. We were celebrating the people at the heart of it.
Love it. That reminds me of a campaign we did here at Agora Pulse many, many years ago. We were celebrating this woman, Ingrid, who is literally an adventurer. And we were supporting her journey as I think she was biking across Europe. It was just so cool to celebrate her story. We did a whole expose on our blog about everything that she'd come through and accomplished and just represented as a human, which is a fantastic thing for brands to do. But how do we know what's working? Right. I mean, you talked about biggest engagement on social media was fantastic. How do you guys know or measure the business impact that these kinds of social media efforts have, particularly around AI and storytelling?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the answer I have for it, it might surprise some people, but maybe not. I rely on anecdotal evidence. We are given that we are a voice product. Ours is an AI that it really has to listen and hear callers. So for me, I can look at my LinkedIn analytics, I can look at Google Analytics for our site, I can look at so many other pieces of data. But what tells the story of the success of our marketing for me is the anecdotal evidence that I get. We've had closed loss deals that have come back after a year and said, we were watching the weekly product releases and we think they're really funny and we're enjoying the content. So let's have another conversation. Or, I get not all that infrequently. I get messages or comments from people that work with us saying, we're going to have to step back a tiny bit. Um, so on LinkedIn, uh, I have my own platform, of course, but then I run our social for Flip, the company proper. And I decided when I took over doing everything on social, that I wanted Flip to be the cutest robot in the world. I wanted our marketing was already very digestible, but Flip being the cutest robot in the world just really drove that home. And Flip, in addition to all of the team going into people's comment section and jazzing them up, Flip goes in too, and Flip only speaks in all caps. And Flip is just silly and funny, and it's not uncommon for me to see people respond back to it as, "Flip, you're the cutest robot I know," or, "Oh, Flip, thanks, I love you." Or, like things that you just would
Mhm.
say to another AI or another bot. Um, but people do for us because we have humanized it. And um, yeah, that's the anecdotal evidence that I get from these various different channels is just like, yeah, okay, we're doing it right. We're gonna keep going with this.
It's ironic, I think, that you've humanized the brand by leaning into the artificial creation of a robot personality, right? There's some irony, I think, in there, but I love the overall message. I send a couple of emails a week, usually at least one long form newsletter personally. And yeah, I can look at open rates and click rates and that kind of thing, but it's the one reply that I
Mhm.
get that somebody says to me how much that week's message resonated with them or helped them in some way or impacted them. That's what stands out to me, that anecdotal evidence. So I really love that you shared that. Are there any tools or resources that you're relying on to try to stay current with AI and social media today? Because I know it's just a huge mess out there.
Yeah, honestly, I think LinkedIn has a personal vendetta against me. Its algorithm changes so rapidly that I can't keep up with it. And as much as an octopus as I am, Goose, by the way, has decided to. Here's the goose. He's biting my sweater. Uh, as much as there is out there, a lot of it, I pay attention to things that are about the um goose. There we go. Okay, I got my sleep back. As much as there is out there about trends and everything that's happening in the world of AI, when it comes down to it, I pay attention to engagement, both on my own posts and on our Flip company posts and on the comments that Flip or I are putting in all sorts of posts. It's kind of the octopus. Maybe I'm more of a jellyfish actually, because there's more than 8 tentacles. But I pay attention to the engagement on that when I find that, something like our weekly product releases are, their engagement is dropping. It's like, okay, wait a second. That means that I need to pay attention to something here. The algorithms, the what people's attention spans they've changed. So I need to pivot. So, it's sort of it's an odd science of putting your head to the ground and feeling the beats. If the beats change, then you've got to pivot. If, all of a sudden things are rumbling, then you got to take your head out of the sand and really pay attention to what's happening. Um, I don't know if that's the most helpful answer, but really being in tune and not tuning out your audience is the best advice I can give.
Well, I think it's a very relatable answer,
Mhm.
because the things that you're describing, the challenges that you're running into, are the same challenges that all of us as social media managers and marketers across all industries and spectrums are running into on all the platforms. I do have a few resources of my own I'll throw out at everyone listening. First, if you're not already following her, follow Anime Hodge on LinkedIn or Instagram. She does, I think it's a weekly post where she shares the social media updates for the past week. So if you're struggling to keep up with LinkedIn algorithmic changes or anything else, she'll include that in that free post. All you gotta do is follow her and you can tune into there. I do recommend the Artificial Intelligence Show that's put on by the Marketing AI Institute, hosted by Paul Raitzer and Mike Kaput. That's my weekly go-to for what's happened in the AI industry over the past week. Comes out every Tuesday morning. They record on Mondays and then talk about, the developments, models, investment, what's happening across the industry. That's the extent of what I would recommend most people pay attention to the industry. You other than that, you don't really need to know what the latest models are from, Google or OpenAI and that sort of thing. And of course, there's my own podcast, the AI Hat podcast, where I'm interviewing folks and talking about how these developments in AI are impacting marketing, business leaders, and so on. So I'd love, Christine, if you'd share any advice that you might have specifically for B2B marketers who are, maybe they're just starting to try to figure out, how do they market my brand's latest AI solutions? Because most brands now are coming around to the fact that we need to incorporate generative AI somehow into our solution, whether it's helping with reports, helping with, audio or something like that. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, I think the advice I would give them is to make it as digestible as you can for your audience. Think of them first. Don't produce something and think, like, oh, they're not really responding to it. You have to think of them first and foremost. You have to make things digestible. You have to make things bite sized. You have to make things in a format that people want to engage with. If you're putting out a 45-minute video, no one's going to watch it. No one's going to watch it. So, keep things in a format that people want to consume. And if you're not sure what that is, think about what you yourself like to consume. So if you are like me and you are on Instagram whenever you have, like time before bed where your head's racing and we're all ADHD now. So I like to scroll before I go to sleep. Um, I think I take note and I think about, okay, what are these pieces of content that I'm consuming where I'm staying for the whole thing? And what is it that I like about that? And how can I translate that to what my audience is interested in? And that's where I would recommend people starting. Think about your audience, think about yourself within an audience and how you like to consume, and take it from there. And don't overcomplicate it. You don't need to be in every channel. You don't need to be doing every type of content. If you are a video and a copy person, focus on video and copy. If you are a designer, focus on design. If you are a yapper, go talk. Yeah, that's what I would suggest is focusing and thinking about your audience and thinking about yourself.
You've been absolutely amazing. This has been such a delight to have this conversation with you. So many nuggets. I think folks who are going into these kinds of adventures with their brands need to go back and re-listen to it. But if they've got more questions for you, if they want to connect with you or learn about Flip, where should they go?
They should go to LinkedIn. As a solo marketer at Flip, I learned a long time ago that focusing on one channel, social media channel anyway, uh, was the only thing that was going to keep me sane, and keep my head above water. Um, so harass me on LinkedIn and you will definitely get a response. It might be in all caps and it might be from a bot, but that's fun.
Love it. We will, of course, have Christina's LinkedIn link in the show notes below so you can go harass her. But that is all the time we've got for today, friends. Don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast B2B edition on Apple. Leave us a review. I'd love to know what you think. Until next time. Thank you for joining another episode of Social Pulse Podcast B2B edition, hosted by Mike Alton and powered by Agorapulse, the leading social media management solution. Learn more at agorapulse.com. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player and leave us a review. We value your feedback and look forward to bringing you more useful insights.